Be Your Best You, the Passionate to Purpose podcast with David Delaney. Good morning and welcome to this episode of Be Your Best You, where this morning we are joined by Elaine Nolan. Elaine is a multidimensional storyteller, author, composer, sound healer, and we catch up with her to find out her latest projects and collaborations. Good morning, Elaine Nolan, and you're very welcome to this episode of Be Your Best You.
And thank you very much for having me, David.
No worries at all. Elaine, 6 books, 7 albums, various collaborations. It all kicked off in 2012 for you, I believe. Tell me about the journey so far.
Oh, God. The journey probably starts really back in childhood. I started music at 4. I remember going to a teacher called Sister Augustine in school at the age of 13 and being brave enough to tell her I wanted to be a writer, hoping she wouldn't laugh at me, and she didn't. So I started writing then, and then, you know yourself, life and other such nonsense tends to get in the way. So yeah, I kind of returned back to it in 2012. I had just completed the opera in Carlow, the collaborative one. It was the opera for everyone.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, Brian Irvine is a fantastic composer, but when you're doing it bit by bit, and I was sitting there going, is this modern music? Oh my God. Now, when it came together, it was fantastic. But when you're only hearing bits and pieces of it, it was like, do you know what? That little voice in the back of my head went, I could do better than this. And the voice went, well, why don't you? And I'm like,
okay. Interesting. Your first public piece was called Non-Nobis, which I believe translates into "not to us." Is that linked to that, or is there?
No, it was just because as you know, I am, such a superstar in the religious community. Not, I looked for some text that was going to be very easy to use, that didn't have, big complicated words, and I really wanted to. When I started out, I wanted to do something simple, but something that, I could build on. And just the text of Non-Nobis, and I think it was Praise to Him or something like that. It was very simple. I didn't want to get too heavy or too deep into it. And I was able to do it as a round. And the text itself actually lent itself to doing that. So yeah, it was simplicity at its best. And I have to admit, I was quite proud of what I produced at the time. I gave it to my vocal coach at the time, because when I was about 16, I went to my piano teacher with some music that I had written, and she basically just shredded it to pieces and said it wasn't proper music. And it's the kind of stuff that Ludovico Einaudi started bringing out then shortly after this. And she completely destroyed my faith in my ability to write music. Okay. So when I gave the Non-Nobis to my vocal coach, who was Catherine Clorn in Clane, she's the Clane Music Academy, and she kind of went, yeah, no. And I was standing there beside her, literally producing a brick. Okay. And she just like, now it's only just one little thing. And I'm like, okay, so, I'm bracing myself as though I can take this. How bad can it be? And she goes, no, no, I don't want you to get upset. I'm like, just tell me. She goes, you've written it in A. And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, can we bring it down to G? I'm like,
okay.
that she literally had me wound up thinking, if she says this is absolute crap, that was it. That was me done. I was never, ever going to write music ever again. Okay. She was one of the 3 people, myself included, and a lady by the name of Mary Sheehy, who we performed it in Longford on April 10th, I think, of 2012.
Okay. Your style has been described as, I suppose, contemporary, classical. You've been compared, and I'm just going to ask you about that. You've been compared to Michael Nyman, the composer. Yeah. As a composer, do you like being compared to another composer? Is that complimentary? Is that, I don't want to be pigeonholed? What's that mean to you?
At the time when I got that comparison, I was literally only coming out of the compositional closet, shall we say. So I like Michael Nyman. I like his stuff. The way it was described is, I had the same energy as, Michael Nyman in terms of the music. So far, I've actually been favorably compared to composers I actually do like. So yes, it's like, yeah, I'm getting up there. So it's that old saying of, what was it? To do with, well, oh my God, you know the saying about working until your idols become your rivals. There you go.
Okay.
Now, I don't, again, I don't want to get into the whole competitive nature of it, because music is already too competitive. But there is that sense of, if I'm being compared to these people who are at the top of theirs, you know, I'm doing something good, I'm doing something right.
Okay. And the writing, was that running alongside that? I mean, you have 6 books as well. So I know there is some crossover. We talk about the collaborations in a sec. But when you're writing music, are you writing a book in your head at the same time, or are you writing a book and hearing the music? What way does that process work for you?
I listen to music when I am writing, and sometimes it's just to have it in the background. Sometimes it can be inspirational. It could hear, I mean, you know yourself, you just hear a word of or a phrase or a line from a song, and it's instantly you can be transported somewhere else. In terms of the soundtracks that go with the books, the soundtracks come after. So the books come first and then the soundtrack. And what it is because the music is kind of set, so that, but when I'm writing books, there are times when I actually don't even know which way the story is going to go. I have an idea of where I think it's supposed to go, and then all of a sudden the characters kind of take it off in a different direction. I'm like, I'm at the stage now is like, I don't question it, I just follow it. Okay. So that when the book is actually finished and I have that something that's solid, then I can go and tell the same story in music. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's interesting when you say, like, one of the questions that sometimes comes up in conversation is, what did you want to be when you grew up? And I know, and just a comparison that I'm thinking in my head.
Do I have to grow up?
Yeah. Well, no, you don't. No, none of us have to. Tori Amos would be a very, very fun. I love Tori Amos's music, and again, something similar happened with herself with the Peabody Institute. She was basically thrown out of the Peabody Institute for rebelling against music and form and what it should be. And there was a nun involved in Tori's early life as well. And I mean, we all know how that story turned out. Tori always wanted to be a musician. She grew up in a musical household. She had that. So again, I don't want to compare, but has that always been? Has Elaine Nolan always grown up in, like, has music been your life? Did you always want to be a musician and a writer? What did you want to be when you were 4, 5, 6 years of age?
My dad has somewhere, I think, in the attic, a tape recording of me at the age of 4 singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Stars. I grew up in a musical household. My grandfather on my father's side played button accordions, sang Shanno style. My granduncle, my grandmother's uncle sang Shannos. My grandfather, as far as I know, on my mother's side was also a Shanno singer. My dad played in show bands with a couple of guys he hung around with. So I grew up, you know, if they were going to weddings, my dad was always playing. And then when my mid to late teens, dad used to sing with a few other guys nearly every Saturday night down in the pub. So no, music has not been a really, really big influence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like
it's been constant. Yeah. I mean, you and I met in choirs. So I mean, we've been in choirs ourselves since all through school, and then we were in the Carlow Choral Society together. And the two of us were actually the two youngest people in it for quite some time. And in terms of the Tori Amos, you were the one who introduced me to Tori Amos's music, and I love it. I think, yeah, that whole sense of just expressing and being who you are. I actually fell out with somebody who had been a really good friend of mine, who was a music teacher. And while I was writing books, it was fine. They were reading the books and helping and whatever. But as soon as I started writing music, I'm writing my own stuff in my own style, in my own voice. And I went to them, to get their opinion on it as well. And they just slated it and just treated it like it was Leaving Cert homework and pointed out every single thing that was wrong. So I have not gone back to that person for music.
And that's quite, as a creative, that's quite, creative people, I think myself can be hurt a little bit more. If someone is I don't know, spraying
you're
cars,
putting your entire soul into the thing that you create. I mean, yourself with your poems, you are actually putting the very essence of who you are into the words that you create. And you know, the projects that you've done with the one, you know, the electric picnic one with the basket, the wicker, but yeah, the story of life thing that you did. Every creative person, see, I do remember these things. Every creative
I don't.
person. This is what it's like being in my head. It's like you remember obscure stuff back from, you know, 1974 when such and such a thing happened, and you're only 3 years of age, but you remember it. It helps to be a writer because you can use all of this stuff. But every single creative person, it doesn't matter what medium you are doing, when you are immersed in what you are doing, you are literally putting your entire soul into it. So yes, when you take a chance on putting stuff out there, and when you take a chance on, like that, going to Catherine and going, I wrote this piece of music, what do you think? You know, you are literally handing over the very essence of who you are to somebody else's opinion, who you would hope that you could trust and rely on.
Okay. Do you write and walk away? Do you finish a piece, a book, or a composition and say, that's it, okay, I'm releasing that, or do you babysit it, nurture it? Do you allow it to grow with the audience, or what does it feel like when you finish and sign off on a piece?
Okay, for music, it's probably going to sound maybe slightly arrogant, I don't know. When I compose a piece of music, I will work with it for as long as it needs to be worked with. You know, I will play around with sounds until I hear it. You know, sometimes I have an idea of what it is I want to write. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just go again, oh, that sounds like really good. You know, I'll have a keyboard and go, I went, okay, where do I go from here? I might copy and paste some of the basic themes into it. But I will wait until, to me, the piece feels finished, until I am happy with what I have produced. Then I release it. It's the only time I do not go to somebody and go, I wrote this 4-piece symphony, 4-movement symphony. What do you think? Is it right? Is it wrong? I do not ask that anymore, because people's ideas of, you know, what you're creating differ from sometimes the story that you're trying to tell. And now there is advice from Neil Gaiman that applies to both writing and both music, that when somebody tells you something is wrong, they're almost always right. But when somebody tells you how to fix it, they're almost always wrong. Okay. So if somebody says, I didn't really, you know, like a particular way you did it, but then you resolved, if there is conflict in a piece of music, or if it's, you know, harsh, if it's unharmonious, I will actually go and resolve that. Again, it's another story. You can't leave people hanging, but you try and bring it to a natural resolution. For some reason, when it comes to the music, I will trust my own intuition on it. But when it comes to words, because again, words are more definite in the story that you're telling. With music, I could write a piece of music, you listen to it, and you have an entirely different aspect and go, oh my God, yeah, it was very, very ethereal, or it was very like this, or it was very like that. And I'm going, was it really? Okay, fair enough. You know, music is what you get out of it, not what necessarily I'm doing. Or, yeah. But when it comes to an actual story, you're dealing with actual characters, you're dealing with very definitive, specific words that can only be interpreted maybe one of two ways. So if in the words you are trying to tell a very clear story, okay, that's where I will go and get, you know, feedback from other people going, you know, did that make sense? Did I use the right language? Was it too hard? Was it too easy? Was the action scene too long? Was it not long enough? So okay. Yeah, it's two different approaches to the two different.
What's sides. Your favorite song and why?
Oh my God. I only one. Like seriously. Okay. We'll stick with Tori Amos. Right. There's two actually, but the one, anytime I'm feeling a little down or feeling not kind of myself, one of the things I do is I will sing. And one of the songs I sing is Silent All These Years. From, I think it's Little Earthquakes album, isn't it? Yeah. Most of it because, you know, there's actually a change in dynamics in this story, in the song that she's telling. there's very clear different styles in it that I like that change in it. But to me, it's the actual words of, and I've been here silent all these years. And it only feels like now that I'm allowing my voice to be heard. So I think when I heard that first, that's why it hit me, and it's just stayed with me. So
okay, that's
the
a
other
good
piece
choice.
then was,
I endorse that choice very much.
I also like singing Leather, which is further down on it.
Yeah, that's the same album, I think.
Only for this. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
The only thing is I would never do it in public.
Okay, yeah, there's some
It's
interesting
far too
lyrics.
provocative.
Okay, if you were on a desert,
then,
you're going to go. You only had two now. I let you away with the
no.
two. So go on. You can have one more.
Vaughan Williams, Fantaise on the theme of Thomas Tallis.
Okay. Another good choice.
17 minutes of just pure heaven.
Excellent, excellent. You're on a desert island, Elaine, and you have two people on a ticket with you that, let's say 12 months. You're on a desert island for 12 months with two people. Who are they?
Does it have to be people? Can I bring my cat?
You can.
And I presume this is one of those, anybody in the world, who would you bring?
Living or dead? If there were two people that you said, you know what, that'd be good, a good 12 months well spent with these people.
Jesus Christ.
That's a good choice.
No, actually, it wouldn't be him. Actually, yeah, he might be interesting to sit down and talk to and figure out, what he actually said compared to what manhood and mankind has come up with. Yeah, bearing in mind that I have been living on my own, isolated for the last year, I'm actually at the point going, do I really have to bring something?
That's fair enough. If you choose not to bring anyone, that's fine too.
Yeah. Actually, I wouldn't know, because I would get tired of people. Not that I would get tired, but just being, an introvert and stuff like that. It's like 12 hours would be enough as opposed to 12 months.
That's fair enough. We're coming on time, Elaine, so I just have one more question for you. Who inspires you and why?
Oh, crap. I would be inspired, I suppose, by a lot of people who try to do good in the world. Okay, I'm not getting into the politics of it, but everything that's going on in the States at the moment, you've got Biden and you've got Kamala Harris now. I know she probably has her detractors, but the fact that they have finally come into the 21st century with actually allowing a woman to represent half the country and half the world. People like that, the Mary McAleese, for all her work that she's been doing on human rights, Mary Robinson, for all her work that she's been doing on the human rights as well. Yet a lot of those people that, while I don't have idols, they would be people that I would look up. And apart from the two Marys, and being proud of the fact that they are two very, very strong Irish women trying to make the world a better place. Yeah. Anybody like that, any feel-good stories, anywhere where people are stepping out to help other people, however that is, if it's even just helping an old lady across the road, I admire stuff like that. I will do it myself. If I see somebody, I will be the person who stands up and lets somebody else sit down on the bus or the train or whatever. It's just little things like that I find inspiring, in a way that it means that the world is nowhere near as bad as what the news might be making it out to be, that there are little tiny acts of kindness everywhere. You even started that way back nearly 20 years ago. And I remember you doing this whole sort of pay it forward concept. And that kind of stuck with me as well, in that, yeah, if you can do a little thing that makes the world a little kinder, that person hopefully will go on and do something kind as well. And you let it build like that. So I don't have one or two people that I would, hang out with everything that they do, because nobody is ever perfect. Okay. So nobody is ever going to be 100% kind, 100% great. They're going to have their off days too. And it's making allowances for that, making allowances for, some things are pretty shit, but it's all up to us to actually make it. And it's the people who step up and do that I look up to and admire.
Okay, excellent. Elaine, tell us where we can find you and your work.
At the moment, I'm predominantly online because obviously COVID and stuff like that. So my website is elainenolan.net, all one word. And then there's links on that for social media, for Spotify, especially if you want to listen to any of the music that's up there. And that's pretty much it.
Excellent. Elaine Nolan, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me, David.
And that's it for another week. Thanks for joining us this morning, and do join us next time on Be Your Best You. Have a good week.